Thank you. Please be seated. So after this wonderful service and the praise music, now we have time for the sermon. And today's topic is the destruction of the temple and the signs of the end times. Womp, womp, womp. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am here as Debbie Downer for you today. And yes, you can call me Debbie. All right. Every year about this time, we have to hear, well, we don't have to. Jennifer, I make a choice to hear from the little apocalypse from the Gospel of Mark. But it touched me in a very different way this year, and I'm excited to share with you my reflections on this text. As Jesus was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." "Do you see all these buildings?" Jesus replied. "Not one stone will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite of the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign that they are about to be fulfilled?" And Jesus said to them, "Watch out that no one deceives you. Many will come in my name claiming I am he, and they will deceive many. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places and famines. These are the beginning of birth pains." In 1997, a group from our church went to Israel. And our first night in Jerusalem, we stayed in the Seven Arches Hotel. And the Seven Arches Hotel was right across the valley from the old city, Jerusalem. And from the hotel, we were actually looking down on the old city, and we could see the Dome of the Rock and its golden dome all lit in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and you could see all the old city below. And not far from the Seven Arches Hotel was the Mount of Olives. And our trip took us there as well. And it was so heartwarming to learn that olive trees regenerate themselves. And they said that some of the trees and remnants of those trees from the time Jesus was there with his disciples could still be. Those trees, some of them were older than 2,000 years old. And so that was the scene that Jesus and his disciples had. They were sitting upon the Mount of Olives, the valley down below them, and as it rises up into the old city. But rather than looking at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, they saw the grand temple of Israel. Now, most scholars believe that the Gospel of Mark was written between 65 and 75 CE. Scholars, many of them, believe that he wrote the Gospel of Mark after the destruction of the temple. That's why he could predict its destruction so easily. Some more conservative scholars believe that, well, he was just very in tune to the signs and he could see that destruction was about to take place because of all the infighting between Rome and the people of Israel. Regardless, for the gospel writer of Mark, he felt that the times were coming to an end. I added that for effect. Okay, now I lied. Mark felt that the times were coming to an end. But when you look at this prophecy, it could be true of any time, right? There will be wars and rumors of wars. There will be earthquakes and famines. There will be natural disasters. Some other apocalyptic literature has the sun will go black and the moon will turn red. Well, 2,000 years later, we know these as natural geological events, and also, in space, we eclipse of the sun. But in the first century, these were signs and omens that God or the gods were angry, and that something horrible was about to take place. When you talk about the signs of the times, the people who are proclaiming that Jesus' return is near are never wrong, and the fact that the signs of the times apply to every generation. Now, I grew up in a very fundamentalist Baptist tradition, and about every, 3 or 4 months, we had an expert come into our church to pull down the old window shade. Remember the ones that you pulled in? He'd written on how he'd lined up everything, that Jesus was coming anytime. Now, I was in a great distress as I got older because I was about 18 or 19 years old and thinking, I'm about to go into college and experience all the fun that college students have. I don't want Jesus to come right now. I got a lot of sinning to do before that happens, right? And I remember my dad telling me that when he was growing up, that the signs of the time was World War II, and it was all going to come to an end then, right? He helped me to put it into perspective. The signs of the times, the stones that you're marveling at right now in these buildings will all come tumbling down, Jesus told his disciples. We are witnessing an apocalypse right now, are we not? From 2020 to the special moment, to the present time, right here now, we have experienced an incredible apocalypse. It is amazing how a tiny little microscopic virus has not only killed millions of people, but has shut down the world economy, has stopped travel, has interrupted culture, nations, and people. Even in our own country, the virus, rather than bringing us together, has even driven us more apart in many ways. The human structure, human infrastructure, all the things that we've been building for so long in a world economy, because of a tiny little microscopic virus, it all came crashing down. Does that mean Jesus is coming back soon? Some may believe it, but I don't. Why? Because I don't believe Jesus ever left. His teachings and his story continue to be a powerful presence in this world, a life-changing presence in this world. When you have a human being who is as evolved and enlightened as Jesus, even after they're physically gone, their energy continues to radiate and thrive and live on the planet. It's interesting that Jesus was talking to his disciples and he said, "Watch out for those who would exploit this time, who will imitate me and say that I am he. Watch out for." That's the exact same phrase and word that was used last week's passage when Jesus told his disciples, watch out for the Pharisees and the religious leaders who like to walk around in their flowing robes and who like to have long, lengthy prayers and who like to have the places of honor at banquets, who live and show their piety while at the same time they devour the houses of widows. Remember, it's the same word. Watch out for is to be possessed by sight, to have the power of seeing, to look with your mind's eye, use your intuition, be able to discern those who exploit these times for their own gain. For centuries, charlatans have been exploiting the masses with Jesus is coming any day. They have exploited the fears and superstitions of people. While they keep getting richer, Jesus still has not come. Am I right? And think about it. Do you honestly think they want Jesus to come? Have you read the apocalyptic predictions of what happens in the second coming with the suffering and the tribulation and all the pain and the agony? Do you think these guys want Jesus to come? I doubt it, because their lifestyle, which they have grown accustomed to, would drastically change. I'm going to sound a little cynical here, maybe a lot, but maybe in their mind, if Jesus were to come, while they're living lavishly, maybe they can escape the trials and the tribulation if they offer Jesus rides on their private jets to get around the world. Yes, there have always been those who exploit these signs, these times, for their own gain. And many of them wrap themselves in righteousness and piety. Watch out for, Jesus says, be possessed with sight. Use your inner mind and be able to discern these false prophets. Now, the Gospel of Mark, whether it was written in 65 CE or 75 CE or sometime in between, for Mark, he felt like the world was coming to an end. He thought that those who were the followers of Jesus, this whole movement was going to come to an end. Those who were followers of Jesus suffered terribly around the region. The Romans had an agreement with the Jews. They knew that the Jews would fight to their last breath before they would bow down to Caesar or to the Roman pantheon. It wasn't worth the trouble. So they had a special arrangement with Israel, but they had no special arrangement for those who were followers of Jesus. They too felt committed not to bow down to foreign gods or bow down to the Romans' power or bow down to Rome's pantheon. And when they would not, they suffered for it terribly all around the region. You see, the Apostle Paul planted all those churches around the Mediterranean. And some of the people were Jews and some of them were Gentiles. Most were Gentiles. And they suffered terribly. And it must have been horrible during that time to be a follower of Jesus in the sense that everything that you knew was going to come to an end. I know, it gets better, I promise you, okay? But we know how desperate Mark was in his gospel and how he was writing to his audience during difficult times because he uses the word immediately quite often. And immediately the person was healed, and immediately this happened, and then immediately that happened, because he was offering a word of hope to people who felt hopeless. And that's where apocalyptic literature is birthed, a time where history seems so hopeless that only some kind of divine intervention is going to be able to save the day. However, Mark's world did not come to an end. We're still here. We're still here fighting one another, serving one another. Some are hell-bent on destroying, while others are committed to building and restoring. Remember when Jesus used himself as a metaphor for the temple? During his passion, he was standing before the religious leaders. He told them what? You remember? He said, destroy this temple and in 3 days I'll rebuild it. Remember that part of the story? And of course, the religious leaders all scoffed at him, right? Ha! It took over 40 years to build this glorious temple, and you think that you can tear it down and build it back in 3 days? You're an idiot. You're just a total idiot. But Jesus wasn't talking about the physical temple, was he? What temple was he talking about? Himself. Himself. Jesus was that powerful presence of agape, the Greek word for unconditional love. Agape, it's love given for love's sake. Agape is given and lavished upon others without any requirement of reciprocity. It doesn't have any demands on it. It doesn't have any expectations of return. Agape is just given for love's sake. His spirit, his wisdom, his intuition, his teachings, and his guidance could not be destroyed. The fact that we're talking about it today and the fact that we manifest his teachings and his spirit so much in our own lives is proof that you can destroy the body, but you cannot destroy the spirit. So how does God go about rebuilding a temple? God rebuilds temples with love and grace and by using people like you and me who embrace the essence of Jesus. And as we become more like him, we build what others continue to try to destroy, but they cannot. The Jewish temple was destroyed in 70 CE, and it was never rebuilt. Two temples set on its foundation, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, both shrines for the Islam community. Buildings and human infrastructure are built. We marvel at them, and then later, when they are destroyed, we grieve. For our nation, it's the Twin Towers in New York, right? Those beautiful towers, which were the hub of the finances of the world, all the trades and everything was going through that place. And it was destroyed by hatred. And even to this day, we grieve. And we see the images of those towers, watching an old movie before it was destroyed. I'm watching a movie that was filmed before, and it's in New York City, and I still see the Twin Tower. Yeah. Stops my breath. However, temples that have as their cornerstone the foundation of agape, of unconditional love, cannot be destroyed. That kind of love is a powerful force in the universe, and that power of agape is a divine thing. You can't destroy it. So how about our temple? Will we rebuild our church? Who we were as a church will not fade away. Have we taken a hit in membership and attendance? Yeah, we sure have. Has our financial and corporate structure taken a hit? Yes, it has. We probably have some lean years coming ahead of us. However, who we are and how we choose to be in this world still stands strong. We love unconditionally because that is who we are, and that cannot be destroyed. We give of our wealth to make a better community and world. We take seriously the teachings of Jesus. We love and embrace everyone who enters the sanctuary and also those who visit us virtually. We do this because we have embraced and we live God's directive. Love your neighbor as... And my friends, there's not a building or structure or an infrastructure or anything that human hands can create that can destroy that. Remember the story Chicken Little? The sky is falling, the sky is falling. I remember it as a little boy, but I wanted to use it as an illustration in a sermon, so I read the story again. I thought, oh my God, they told us that when I was a little boy. Ooh, ring around the roses, full of posies. I had no idea that was people dying from the plague. But anyway, we sang it and thought it was a lot of fun, and we loved falling on the ground. The sky is falling, the sky is falling. Chicken Little believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that the sky was falling. It was in all of his... He knew, he just was so... He felt that the sky is falling. And then he recruited some friends and convinced them too that the sky was falling. Did the sky fall? No. Chicken Little and his fearful friends, well, let's just say life wasn't too good for them in the end. Because we feel it, because we believe it, because we think that it's all crumbling and falling apart, doesn't mean that it is. Mark thought his world was coming to an end, and it did not. And there have been other times through human history when it just seemed like it's all coming to an end, and it has not. We will continue to thrive regardless of our current infrastructure and whatever it looks like. We will continue to thrive. How can I be so sure? Because we embrace God's unconditional love. We are a part of an eternal structure that we call the temple of Christ, which He is the cornerstone, which the foundation is built upon love and kindness and compassion and generosity, hospitality. You see, that's a God thing. That's a God thing. And I find that these days, since we've started meeting in person again, I'm identifying with the father in the prodigal son story a little more. Each Sunday I step up here and I, like the father, looking down the road for his son to return. Each Sunday I'm standing here hoping to see some of the faces that I haven't seen for almost 2 years now. And for a variety of reasons, many of our friends have not returned. I don't blame them. I don't judge them. I'm not angry with them. I just miss them. I just missed them. It was interesting when I met Amy how she helped me to see my ministry and my work through her eyes. And she says, "You have no idea how lucky you are." So what do you mean, Amy? She said, "Every week you stand by those big double doors and 100 or more people come and hug you and tell you how wonderful you are and how much they love you. When I go to work, I'm having to dodge people trying to stab me in the back and throw me under the bus." Yeah. I miss you. My friends, if you watch, we miss you. We don't judge you. We're not angry. We miss you. You know, it's like a child leaving home, right? Parents, do we judge them? Are we angry with them because they go out of state to go to school or their careers take them someplace away from home? Do we judge them? No. We're thrilled for them. We love them unconditionally. We just miss them. There's one of them calling now. We will continue to thrive because we have embraced the teachings of Jesus, because it's who we are. It's in our DNA. It is a God thing. Unconditional love cannot be destroyed. It's a powerful force in the universe. And who we are and what we create in this world will live on for many more generations. Our love for each other and our commitment to feed, to clothe, to heal, to restore, to welcome, to embrace, and to love eternally, unconditionally, is indeed an eternal reality. This temple will never be destroyed. This temple will never be destroyed. Never. Because it's a God thing. Thus ends the lesson.